These are the teeth of someone who lived 1,000 years ago. And these are the teeth of the average person today. Notice anything different? They didn't have 3 colored toothpaste back then. They didn't have dentists. They didn't even know what floss was. There was no such thing as paying money for teeth cleaning, or paying $300 on fillings, or $3,000 on implants, or $10,000 on veneers. And yet somehow our ancestors still had perfect teeth. Whereas today, even though we have the most advanced technology in the history of time, the average family will still have to sucker out over $2,000 a year on their teeth. So why is this the case? Well, to find out, I decided to ask an insider. This is Trisha O'Hare. She's been a dental hygienist for more than 50 years. She's also the president of O'Hare University and has written a bunch of books on why our teeth keep getting worse and how we can fix it.
Hunter-gatherers never had gum disease because they didn't eat carbohydrates. They hunted, killed an animal, ate the animal, and were full for a long time, and then several days later they would go get another one. When the diet changed to more agricultural and more processed foods, that's when we began to see differences in dental disease, alignment of the teeth, and even switching from nose breathing to mouth breathing, which then caused all the teeth to be crowded.
Ah yes, carbs were the key. See, although we do need carbs, hunter-gatherers mostly lived off of foods like meat and fruits. But farming changed all of that. Suddenly, everyone's diet shifted heavily towards carbs like potatoes, corn, wheat, and bread. Carbs that are broken down into sugar even as you chew. And since sugar is food for the bacteria that causes plaque and cavities, even though those farmers weren't eating any actual sugar like cookies and candy, their teeth still suffered. And then came the actual sugar.
When sugar was first introduced, or honey, the only people who ate it were the rich people. The poor people couldn't afford it. So the poor people had much healthier mouths, and the rich had a lot more dental disease. We have like 800 different species in the mouth, but if you don't eat sugar, you have healthy bacteria. But if you eat sugar, the bad bacteria metabolize that sugar and produce the acid that causes the cavity in the tooth. Bad bacteria also climb under the gums and cause gum disease, and sugar even comes out in the fluid between the gum and the tooth.
The introduction of refined sugar started rotting people's teeth. In medieval Europe, dental diseases became such a big issue that people were actually asking their barbers to pull out bad teeth for them. These barber surgeons weren't exactly experts, and sometimes they did a lot more harm than good. They had no idea why teeth were bad, they were just there to do the pulling for you. These tooth drawers, as they were called, would wrench, smash, and knock your teeth out using a terrifying instrument called a dental key. And these tooth drawers would be the early origins of good old dentistry. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and dentistry started looking a lot more like what it does today. But people's teeth were still worse off than ever, and no one could understand why. Today we know why. It's because of our carb and sugar heavy diets. But guess what else was starting to boom in the 1900s? Ah yes, Big Sugar. And Big Sugar was gonna do everything in their power to hide the truth. And by the way guys, you know how Trisha said earlier?
Even switching from nose breathing to mouth breathing, which then caused all the teeth to be crowded.
Yes, that is right. Breathing through your mouth will actually crowd your teeth. That's because your tongue isn't there to push your teeth out. So if you want better teeth among many other benefits, you gotta stop mouth breathing. You just gotta be conscious of it throughout the day. The problem is when you first try to mouth breathe through your nose, it's gonna be tough to get air in at first because those airways haven't been used in so long. That is why Trisha recommends using a nasal spray every day to open up those passageways.
Using the clear nasal spray on each side to make sure your nasal passages are open.
The one she's talking about is called Clear and we'll link it below. Trisha is not affiliated with Clear, but we are. They're the sponsor of this video. I literally use Clear every day when I brush my teeth. I've gotten all my loved ones on this because on top of helping you breathe better, every time I felt like I was catching a cold or a cough, I would just use this nasal spray and it would stop. That's because this spray has xylitol in it, a natural sugar alcohol. And when sprayed into your nose, the xylitol binds to the cells on your throats, preventing viruses from binding to it. And most colds and coughs and COVID you're gonna get is gonna be through your nose, so that's why you have to clean it. Can't recommend Clear enough. It's also really affordable and you can pick it up on Amazon with the link below. As far back as the 1950s, you as Big Sugar knew full well why everyone's teeth was rotting. But obviously, you couldn't let the masses know the truth. Imagine if everyone knew sugar was the reason why their teeth were falling out, and that sugar was costing them hundreds of dollars in dental bills. No one would buy your food-like substances anymore, so you went on the offensive. You got your buddies in the government to make sure that none of the research into tooth decay ever mentioned sugar as a possible cause.
The sugar industry was very instrumental in pushing research that covered up sugar as the cause of disease and highlighted that fat caused heart disease and fat made you fat. And the way they did this is they actually paid researchers. They paid, there's evidence of, there must be more, but at least 2 researchers from Harvard who published research reviews that the sugar industry actually had final sign-off on that showed that fat caused heart disease and fat made people fat, but there was no inclusion of sugar in all this, even though there was a lot of sugar research that was done. And the sugar industry actually destroyed the career of the researcher John Yudkin in the UK, who did the original research about sugar. And they just destroyed his career and attacked him as a professional and lied about him. And then he kind of disappeared. But his book, Pure White and Deadly, was resurrected again by a pediatric endocrinologist in LA who had it republished because he was seeing, his name is Robert Lustig, he saw little kids, 8-year-olds, with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And he realized that it was all the fruit juices because the fructose, the fruit juice, and high fructose corn syrup goes right to the liver and is turned into fat. And too much fructose in the diet was causing disease in the liver for 8-year-olds. But he didn't realize all the work that had been done and covered up about sugar causing systemic disease like this.
But even after all these cover-ups, the truth started slowly coming out. More and more researchers were making the link between sugar and dental disease. But strangely enough, most people today don't really know that sugar is the main cause of tooth diseases. Why is that? Shouldn't this be common knowledge? Well, it's because that not only did Big Sugar not want people to know about this, but as a dentist, you also weren't very motivated to tell your patients about the dangers of sugar.
So get your hands on some new Nestle Bunch and Crunch.
Think about it, as a dentist, your business was now booming thanks to all this tooth decay. $300 fillings, $3,000 implants, $10,000 veneers. In today's money, you were a very happy beneficiary in this tooth decay epidemic. So deep down, why would you want the tooth decay to stop? Why would you want the masses to have clean teeth? At the end of the day, you make money on costly operations. So one more person with clean teeth is one less customer. So you and your dentist buddies got together in a dimly lit room to concoct a plan to keep people's teeth decaying. Well, actually no, that didn't happen. Things usually don't work like this usually. In actuality, it was more of, hey, I'm a rich dentist, I would like to keep being rich. Oh, you said sugar is 100% the only cause of tooth decay? Well, I'm just gonna subconsciously ignore that. Oh, would you look at that, you need a tooth implant. That would be 1 kidney, please. This is the incentive that many dentists have. Think about it yourself when you go to the dentist. Unless you're doing a very profitable operation, you see the dentist for maybe 5 seconds, if at all. And in those 5 seconds, they're like, oh, make sure you floss. Okay, I gotta go now, bye. Which is why over the next few decades, instead of educating your patients to prevent tooth decay, to prevent disease, you and your fellow dentists came up with a bunch of weird, obscure protocols that don't even address the root cause. You need to brush twice a day, use fluoride toothpaste. Don't rinse, just spit. Wait, our research says you need to brush at least 2 minutes, twice a day. Oh, and don't forget to floss. You do so much stuff at people, that's practically impossible for most people to keep up with it. Now, every time someone comes into your office with a cavity and swore that they were brushing twice a day and flossing, you don't blame it on the sugar in their diet. You just accuse them of forgetting something on your list. Oh, but do you brush for 2 minutes at a time? How often do you floss? Oh, you're rinsing after you brush? You're not giving the toothpaste any time to work. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, they will always fall short of your expectations on at least one of those things. And so you're in the clear. The blame is placed on them, you bring out your tools, drill some holes, fill them back up, and boom, their money is placed into your pocket. But here is the most magical part about this whole business. It's that the more holes they get drilled in their teeth, the more dentistry they have, the more likely they're gonna have to come back.
One of the biggest risk factors for getting dental disease besides sugar is going to the dentist, because every time you have a filling put in, it cuts the a hole in the tooth, put in a restoration, then you have that margin around the filling of the crown, and microscopically that's a nice big place for bacteria to accumulate. Microscopic, you can't see them, but they're there, and the more sugar you feed them, the more acid they produce, and you could get cavities right around the tooth that already got a filling. So people don't understand how they're getting cavities when they already had the fillings. But definitely a risk. The more dentistry you have, the more likely you are to have more dental disease.
Did you listen to that, ladies and gentlemen? The more dentistry you have, the more likely you are to have more dental disease. That is the great scam of dentistry. And that's why you can finally go pick up that new Porsche. And naturally, as time went on, you were finding all sorts of things in your patients to perform bigger and more expensive procedures on. Oh, you have a cavity? Let's take a bunch of expensive x-rays even though I can clearly see how deep it is. The cavity I filled is still hurting? It must have reached down to your nerve endings. Time for a root canal. Even if it was your own bad work that caused the extra problems, you could just explain it away and charge them another kidney. It was the perfect business plan. But there was just one small problem. Some of your subordinates were threatening to tell the public the truth. You know how when you go to the dentist for a regular cleaning, it's not actually the dentist that cleans your teeth? No, regular teeth cleanings don't make money, so dentists relegate that plebeian work to their underlings, the dental hygienists. Dental hygienists are not full-on dentists, they're beneath them. That way, the dentist keeps their really lucrative operations all to themselves. But guess what? These dental hygienists are actually trained to do exactly what you despise. Their job is to help patients prevent tooth disease before it happens. Now, we can't have that now, can we?
The hygienists are taught how to treat some disease, but also, more importantly, how to prevent dental disease and how to prevent dentistry. If let loose, we could cure dental disease because we know what's causing it and we know what to do. And another interesting fact is that 80% of the work that the dentist does in the dental practice comes through the patients that see the hygienist. So if they don't have a hygienist working, bringing in all these patients for the quote-unquote cleanings, there wouldn't be any work for the dentist to do. So they use it as a way to get more work, more patients. Absolutely. And it used to be a lost leader where they didn't even charge enough to pay the hygienist to do it because they got so much work from it. But now the hygienists are more highly educated. They need to be compensated, so the dentists are complaining about that too.
And for years this was fine. The hygienists remained your underlings, they made a tiny fraction of the money you make, and they definitely don't have as much status as you. And so life was good. But then they started to get smart. They started becoming more independent. They wanted to open up their own practices, and worse yet, they wanted to take your profitable patients with them. Which meant that if you didn't do anything about this, if you didn't squash this little uprising, your livelihood, your status would all go swirling down the sink. But luckily, you knew just the way to fight back, with a cartel that goes by the name of the American Dental Association.
So their dentists, especially the American Dental Association, is really afraid of hygienists going out on their own.
The American Dental Association, or ADA, has complete control over what treatments dentists and hygienists are allowed to do. They're basically in control of the entire careers of dentists and hygienists.
The education is controlled by the Dental Association, their Commission on Dental Accreditation, and they control what education dentists have and hygienists have because both of these educational programs lead to a license.
But here's the thing, even though the ADA has all this power over dental hygienists, only dentists and dental students are allowed to be members. No hygienists allowed. You know what that means, right? Since hygienists don't get a say over their own profession, you can suffocate them and keep them under your control.
They have always stated that dental hygiene should be a 2-year entry to practice, but they allow the Hygiene Association and educators to add more input into the content of the education. So now they've added so much to the education that it's actually just short of a master's degree. And they still require that it be a 2-year entry. And something they did in the 70s, which is interesting, is they had an organized plan to push all dental hygiene programs out of universities where they were getting a bachelor's degree into community colleges. So they forced the hygienists to have a 2-year degree. But now we have almost 250 community college programs for dental hygienists. So they study for 5 years, 2 years of prerequisites and 3 years squashed into 2 to get their 2-year degree. The real reason is that dental hygiene has allowed dentists to control the education. If you're a profession, you have to control your own education. So we are actually, as dental hygienists, considered auxiliaries of dentistry, not true professionals.
Thanks to this small change, hygienists can only ever work under your supervision. And most states are not even allowed to practice on their own or decide on treatments without your inputs.
The reason they want to do this is they don't want dental hygienists to be independent. Because if hygienists had a higher level degree, they could then achieve independence and work on their own outside the dental office. And the dentists are afraid if that happens, only the good dentists will get referrals and the bad dentists won't have any work.
Here is what all of this means in practice. When you go in for a cleaning or a checkup, a hygienist might spot a cavity in one of your teeth, but under no circumstances are they allowed to tell you. Instead, all they can do is make a note of it for the dentist so that you can pay for expensive x-rays and be charged for another consultation just to be sure. Dental hygienists aren't even allowed to use that little mirror to further inspect cavities without first getting the dentist's permission. That is how far the ADA has gone to make sure that dental hygienists are seen as nothing more than the equivalent of nurses. And all of this worked. Dentists continue to get rich, while your teeth and your wallet continue to suffer. So how do you actually go about protecting your teeth on your own, since your dentist might not have your best interests at heart? Okay, out of curiosity, if you were to raise a kid, like from the ground up, kind of like how we grew up as hunter-gatherers without, processed sugars and stuff like that, would their teeth just be perfectly healthy and not crowded and all that stuff?
Absolutely. Their teeth would be perfectly healthy.
So the first one is obvious. Reduce the amount of sugar and carbs you're consuming and opt for more meat. Now, if you're eating healthy, organic, clean carbs from quality ingredients with meat, it's probably not as big of an issue. Your body does need sugar. This is more for those that are chugging sodas, energy drinks, and processed snacks all the time.
And what happens when you eat processed food, especially with sugar, when it's metabolized, it gives off CO2. And that goes through from the stomach to the bloodstream into the lungs, and then it has to be exhaled. And there's so much more of the CO2 than normal that they switch from nose breathing, which keeps the tongue on the roof of the mouth, making the jaw grow wide. And their tongue drops, they open their mouth, and the cheeks push in, and they get all crooked teeth.
Yes, that is right. Too much sugar can actually turn you into a mouth breather, which can lead to even more crowding of your teeth, which will mean another round of expensive braces. We could do a whole video on mouth breathing. It's really bad, and you just gotta be self-aware when you're mouth breathing. You gotta rest your tongue against the roof of your mouth, and that's pretty much it. But when you first start trying to breathe through your nose, it's probably gonna be a little tough.
The less you use your nose, the less you're going to be able to use your nose, just like any other muscle. So when people start habitually breathing through their mouths, their noses are going to start to close up. And we know this from the doctor of speech language pathology at Stanford. She measured people who had laryngectomies, holes drilled in their throats so they could breathe. She found between 2 months and 2 years, their noses were completely blocked, zero air coming in. So the more you use it, the more you're going to be able to use it. So the less you use it, the more apt you will be to have problems.
That is why Trisha recommends using a nasal spray every day to open up those passageways.
Using the clear nasal spray on each side to make sure your nasal passages are open.
Which again, we'll link to the Clear nasal spray below. Again, Trisha is not affiliated with Clear, but we are the sponsor of this video. Trisha also has a unique take on brushing your teeth.
I've written the book about dry brushing, so don't brush with toothpaste. Brush without toothpaste. Brush the inside of the bottom teeth first. Brush the whole mouth without toothpaste until the mouth feels clean and tastes clean, and only then add toothpaste. And to clean between the teeth, you can use a water flosser, you can use an interdental brush, all kinds of things, picks, sticks, or if you want to floss, you can, but if you floss, be sure you get a squeak when you wrap it around and go up and down to scrape the bacteria off the teeth. You need to get a squeak.
What is a squeak?
A squeak, a squeaky clean, like when your hair is really clean and squeaky, and when you clean a window, it kind of squeaks. If you get the bacteria off your teeth with the dental floss, you will get a squeak. But if you just go lightly, you're still leaving a layer of bacteria on the teeth.
So as you can tell, Trisha has been a huge help for this video, and from talking to her, you can tell that she really cares about helping people. So I'll link to her stuff below for you to check out if you're interested. Stay dangerous, and we'll see you in the next one.